After a treasure hunt with your friends, you make it to the treasure. But instead of the wealth you were told about, it was a note congratulating you on your journey, and that the real treasure was the friends you made on the way. The only problem is that all your friends died getting you this far. Well, Laura coughed up blood, craning her head with all her might. What does it say? I stared at the parchment, having just completed reading it myself. Is it another clue? Or are we done? She continued, wiping a bit of blood from her chin. No, we're done, I said stoically. Ah, she sighed, relieved. And how much fortune are we talking? What does the note say? Greetings, travelers. Congratulations on getting to the treasure. I hope you're more relieved than disappointed at its contents. It says, Greetings, travelers. Congratulations on getting the treasure. It must have been a difficult journey, I began. Huh, that's what your mother said, huh? Funny how it comes back to the difficulty of it, but with the money, we'll be able to pay for her treatment. So with our difficulty comes her ease. Laura nodded. I swallowed hard. My throat began to itch as tears threatened to flow down my face. You have fought through thick and thin. In the end, you have gained one of the most important and valuable things of all, the wealth of knowledge, and there is nothing comparable to that. It continues with, not only will you have an enormous fortune, but also get to enjoy the wealth of knowledge and experiences you got on the way. I said, my voice slowly becoming quieter the more I read. Huh! Laura coughed up more blood, her face pale and in pain. I'm sure you'll spend a lot of the wealth trying to forget this whole deal. This guy really is funny. Though, thinking about it, I'm sure Greg would say the same thing if he was with us today. It's a shame what happened at the... She coughed another wad of blood up and laid back, signaling with a finger that I should continue. And so, dear travelers, I encourage you to take that wealth and continue your life with it. For no matter the amount of wealth you have, I guarantee you that your last memories will be about the ones you love and spend time with. Cherish them, as they are the most important thing in this life. Your enigmatic friend, the guide. I looked down at Laura. It seemed she was taking her final breath. It wasn't even worth coming up with a lie when she looked ready to pass. Well, she whispered hoarsely, how much is the fortune worth? What did we earn here? My heart became tight. I didn't know what to say. I wrung the paper in my hand, tearing it a bit as I thought rapidly for something to appease her in her final moments. It's something that will last me my entire life, I said, sincerely. That's g-. She didn't open her eyes, only took one final breath to say, I wish I could spend it with you. With her passing, I stood up and looked at the horizon spanning miles below me. All of the land that we trekked to get here. All of my closest friends were dead. The only solace I could take was that no one was going to be as disappointed as I was to discover that all their sacrifices were in vain. I gripped the parchment tightly and took a few steps forward, looking down more steeply. Keeping to my promise, I held on to the treasure that would last me for the rest of my life, and jumped. This story was written by Nazer the Laser. Our next story was written by Ion Prize. Tears welled up in my eyes as I stared at the crumpled piece of paper in my hand. Congratulations, it read. You found the treasure. It might not be exactly what you expected when you first started out, though. Throughout your journey, you've no doubt learned quite a few lessons. You've faced many trials and hardships, but in the end, you overcame them all through the power of teamwork. And that, dear adventurer, is the real treasure. The friends you've made along the way. You don't need gold or rubies to show you what's really important. You've learned that for yourself. I truly hope that this has been a memorable and valuable experience for you, and I wish you luck in all your future travels. Best wishes, Ichabod Alexander. The tears finally overflowed and spilled out, flowing freely down my cheeks. I made no attempt to wipe them away, as I let my gaze travel up from the sheet of paper and settle on the huge, ornate treasure chest in which I had found it. Even the box's gold lining, I now saw, was fake. The gold leaf had peeled away in some spots, revealing the iron underneath. The whole thing was a mockery. I glanced to my left, where the fresh body of Billy lay on the cold, hard ground, a poison arrow sprouting from his shoulder. He had made it just long enough to see the treasure chest, and then he had collapsed and died on the spot. I touched the wooden bracelet on my wrist. Xavier had given it to me as he died from a spear in his chest, making me promise to give it to his wife back home, along with his share of the treasure. He had been. It made me itch just to look at them. Now, fell fiend, prepare to meet whatever loathsome denizen of the pit is your maker. Your evil reign is finally at an end, she said, striking a rather good heroic pose. I've seen a lot of heroic posers over the years, and can appreciate good workmanship when I see it. It wasn't locked, you know, I say quietly. Me and my companions have struggled through torment and danger and death to face you down, you abominable beast, and she continued with her speech as if she hadn't even heard me. You could have just pushed it open, but oh no, not good enough. Not a dramatic enough entrance for heroes. I raised my voice a little. I'd always been very fond of a good decorative gold inlay. The noxious swans of Groshala did not deter us, nor did the frozen beaks of Krashakal. Her voice started to waver a little. Oh no, just pushing them open would be far too prosaic. You have to go and blow the bloody doors off. What do doors matter when compared to your lifetime's worth of villainy? Fair point. I can't deny I've been a little mischievous now and then, but that's hardly the door's fault, is it? You'll be losing far more than your doors, monster. Your head and life are forfeit this day. That's heroes for you, always undervaluing the fixtures and fittings. Those doors were the work of the dwarves, the finest craftsmen ever to have existed, and since the entire race is now extinct, they're irreplaceable. Extinct because you wiped them out. You imprisoned them and worked them to death, down to the merest child, one of the many crimes for which we will finally make you pay. It was maybe a little hasty of me, but evil fortresses lit by living, flowing magma, carved from a single black gem of almost infinite hardness, don't just make themselves, you know. You need to properly motivate your workforce. In this case, by imprisoning and torturing everyone they knew and loved. It's far more effective than an index-linked pension scheme. Enough of your words, she turned to her barbarian comrades. Unleash the beast! They let fall the iron shackles and moved, rather skittishly, I felt, for fearless barbarian heroes, away from whatever it was. It shook free of the chains and let out a low, menacing growl. You thought yourself safe, the redhead declaimed. You thought no one knew of your weakness, and even should they learn of it, no one would dare to approach such a dreadful creature. Never mind capture it and bring it here. It cost us a dozen of our companions to chain him, and another 4 it killed during the journey, but it will be a small price to pay for your demise. The creature sprang towards me, a horror collage of fur and claws and fangs. Fluffy, I cried, hugging his neck as he playfully tried to rip off my arm. Mommy's missed you, yes she has. He rolled on his back and lovingly attempted disembowelment with his rear claws while I rubbed his belly scales. Who's been gone away for ages and made poor Mommy worried? Naughty boy. There's been some kind of mistake, cried the dismayed red-headed sorceress. The prophecy said the Dark One had a weakness for manticores. And who wouldn't have a weakness for such a fluffy, wuffy snuggums? I said, scratching Fluffy just in the right spot behind his ears. Was the prophecy told to you by a sinister gaunt man with a vivid scar across one eye and a dark cloaked line with what looked uncannily like human eyelids? Yes, that was the seer who. Just who do you think someone looking like that would be working for, anyway? You mean it was you who. It's so easy. It's almost boring. I once told you humans that the only thing that could kill me was a cloth of gold dress studded with emeralds, sapphires, and rubies. I was just taking the piss, really. I didn't expect you lot to fall for it. But I had that dress within the month. I have to admit it works even better than kidnapping and torturing the families. Shame it's not as much fun. Said one of the barbarians. Well, I'm sure we're all glad you've got your pet back. We'll just be going now. Showing, I thought, surprising intelligence for a man in a bearskin posing pouch. I'm afraid Fluffy will be very hungry after such a long journey, and he does so love to play with his food. Do try your very best to escape. The faster of them on the uptake and on their feet were already through the door and accelerating when Fluffy rolled upright and slinked off in pursuit. As their screams echoed out through my dark and glittering hallways lit by ever-changing sinister light, I, the undying Dark Overlord, lolled back in my throne carved from the diamond skull of the last dragon, and said, I'll have to tell the seers to prophesy something about a new door. This story was written by Mans from Da Vinci. Read by Bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening. The Prophecy. The demon sharply inhaled. Oh no, he began. The prophecy? Exactly, replied the hero, smirking. The prophecy. The demon almost rolled his eyes, but managed to hold himself back. I knew the prophecy of, he said, waving his hand in small circles, would come for me one day. The hero shook his head. There is but one prophecy, demon. His lips align, the demon nodded. Yup, he replied, having spread at least a few dozen. Just the one. The hero swung around his bag, opening it. Gaze upon the mechanism of your demise and despair, he growled. Weapon revealed, the demon held up a shielding hand and hissed. It cannot be. The prophecy confirmed. The hero broke into a smile. But it is, he cried, raising his weapon into the air. Raspberry Pi! A hacking cough echoed across the throne room. Then the demon slid down his throne, clutching his chest. My one solace, the demon heaved, firmly closing both eyes as he tried to fight the pain. Is that blasted dish is void of... He opened one eye. Whipped cream? One of the hero's party members stepped forward, reaching into a bag, revealing a large jar. After uncorking the jar, the party's knight dipped in a dagger, revealing the contents as he held up the dagger. Whipped cream. Eyes wide, the demon stammered. No. The knight grinned and applied a thick coat of whipped cream onto the pie in one fluid motion. The demon clutched at his heart. Curse you, hero, the demon cried. Are you entirely void of mercy? The hero stared the demon down, unyielding. Apply a second coat of whipped cream, the demon hissed. No, don't overdo it, he said, looking away in pain. It'll destroy me. Another, the hero cried. A third coat. Sugary relic in hand, the hero stepped forward, marching towards the place where the relic would, according to the prophecy, reveal its true power. Please, the demon begged, sliding down to the floor on all fours, clutching his chest. His strength appeared to be leaving him. His limbs gradually slid outward until he was facing down in a prone position. With trembling hands, the hero placed the pie onto the wooden surface, sliding it carefully onto the coffee table, then stepped back. The priest clutched his staff and screamed as nothing happened. James, what the fuck? The hero cried. Sorry, it's the nerves, he replied, staring at the floor in embarrassment. After a moment of silence, a party member spoke up. Did we win? What happens now? Feeling like there was no further need for acting, the demon swung his head around and stared at them from his place on the floor. This, the demon said matter-of-factly, snapping his fingers, causing the heroes to disappear in a puff of smoke. He pushed himself away from the floor, easily returning to both feet, and walked over to the coffee table. The demon stood there for a moment, staring at the pie with 3 thick coats of whipped cream. They overdid it, he sighed. 3 coats is too much. You're basically eating whipped cream at this point, he continued, lightly shaking his head. He ran a finger over the pie, tasting the whipped cream. He smiled, then frowned. Falling into a defensive stance, he did a check of the throne room. Alone. Good. Then picked up the pie. The demon froze in place when an icy voice cut across the throne room. Percival Benjamin Beelzebub, it cried. His assistant marched into the throne room with fury in her eyes, her heels echoing throughout the throne room like gunshots as she did. She planted an accusing finger against the Overlord's chest. Do I need to remind you of your blood sugar? She cried. The pie will be the end of you. This story was written by Writer Horrible. Read by Bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening. The end of days has come. You and 3 buddies revamp different types of forklifts to run on alternative energy. You all wander the wastes and help people with seemingly impossible tasks. You are the Forkmen of the Apocalypse. Move some more from the pile over there, Jeff motioned as the woman desperately clamped onto his sleeve. Don't leave, she managed to whisper through cracked lips. Don't worry, this ain't our first rodeo. We know what we're doing. Jeff pulled her out another few inches as the forklift moved a large pile of broken debris and hastily dumped in on top of a different pile. Immediately, there was a groan as the new pile shifted and buckled in on itself. It collapsed into what must have been the basement of the former building. The woman's eyes went wide before her pupils became unfocused, taking rapid, panting breaths. No, that's fine. Jeff looked between the new crater and where Steve sat driving the forklift. He tried to give his head one fervent shake through clenched teeth, then looked back at the woman. That's a great sign. The next part of the plan. Jeff paused and looked around the landscape for a quick explanation. Ventilation holes? He cringed at his own lame answer. It's fine, he whispered again. Finally, with the burst of inspiration, Steve used the side of the forklift, wedged up against what may have been a car door at some point, to scrape an entire layer of garbage from the pile, trapping the woman into the newly created hole. The weight lifted from the pile finally gave enough room for Jeff to pull her free. They both fell back onto the ground, panting. The moment might have been awkward, with the 2 of them laying twisted in a pile, if the woman didn't immediately start clawing, pushing, and kneeing Jeff in an attempt to get away from him. Just leave me alone, she screamed, backing away, holding a piece of rebar she must have picked up while climbing over Jeff to freedom. She swung it between Jeff, who still groaned on the ground making a feeble attempt to get up, and Steve, now descended from the forklift. We're here to help, Steve said, hands up in a gesture of peace. We're just a few guys with a forklift. We've been helping rescue people around the area. The woman lowered the rebar a few inches, but continued to back away. The word hero gets thrown around a lot, mainly by me, but by the textbook definition, yes, I'd say we're heroes. Steve moved slowly forward, but towards Jeff while keeping his eyes on the woman. We have doctors, Jeff said as he groaned and rolled to his knees. If you've been trapped under here since the last explosions, you have to be in shock by now. I'm fine, she said, and moved in half a circle to put herself between the men and the empty forklift. No, wait, Steve said, with a sidestep to block the path to the forklift. You are welcome to come with us for help, or you are free to go out on your own. We're not here to tell you what to do. Really, the only thing we're going to object to here is you taking our forklift. You idiots, the woman raged, throwing the rebar at Steve side-armed. He stepped deftly to the side as it clanged and fell a few yards past him. You're the ones doing this. All this. She motioned at the wasteland surrounding them. What? Steve asked, confused, but still cutting off the woman's path to the forklift. We're just here to help. Where did you get the power source for that thing? She asked with a motion to the idled machine. We found it not far from the first blast site. The woman just shook her head and rubbed her temples. That's why we couldn't fix any of this. What are you talking about? Jeff asked, finally on his feet. Ground zero for this whole disaster was a quantum laboratory working on a new type of power supply called the Mobius core, a perpetual energy source meant to cure the world energy crisis. But everything went wrong, and it tore our universe into two, perfect twins of each other, except yours is now in rubble. I think you better come with us, Jeff said with an extended arm. I really think you're in shock. I'm not in shock, she said, still moving towards the forklift. I'm from the other universe. We're trying to fix everything, but we can't as long as you keep the Mobius core running to power a forklift. This story was written by Stacy Out There. Read by a bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening. Your power is that any insect that gets within 30 feet of you is vaporized. One day on your regular walk to work, a man steps in your field and is turned to dust in the middle of the street. People start fleeing in a panic, except for a few standing about 30 feet away, staring at you hatefully. Before I could think, a blacked-out navigator screeched up to me, and I was bundled inside. Preliminary scans indicate you're human. What tech did you use to vaporize that Carapakai, and where did you get it from? 3 men in black suits sat around me, their sidearms pointing at my face. I don't even know what you're talking about. Bugs have always gotten burned up when they got too close to me, but never a person. Are you guys FBI? The man sitting beside me reached over to grip the back of my neck as his two companions glanced toward each other. You're a mutate. Is he registered? I hadn't noticed when they had taken my wallet, but the man sitting across from me handed my ID to the man who had been doing all the speaking. Listen, I don't even know what's going on. I don't even know how I killed that man. Can somebody please tell me what is going on? My neck was gripped tighter as I spoke. It wasn't a man, Mr. Anders. It was a Carapakai. You may have just started a war with the Martians. I could only blink as a response. Martians. Return to HQ. The rest of that swarm is sure to report back as soon as possible. The higher-ups need to be made aware of Mr. Anders and his capabilities. They are going to be in an uproar when scans show the Martian ship leaving the atmosphere. I began to shake. I had been snatched up by some shadow organization, and it was clear they did not plan to just let me go. Mr. Anders, you are about to become part of something the likes of which you've never imagined. The pressure on my neck was instantly alleviated, as gravity seemed to disappear from the SUV. I was briefly amazed as I thought the vehicle could fly. Reality came crashing down when the SUV slammed into the ground on its side. We are being engaged. Send help. I repeat, we are being engaged. I was in a tangled heap of agents, and the taste of iron filled my mouth. The SUV was slammed onto its roof before I could even think enough to extricate myself. I can't believe they are just attacking us like this. It seems our intelligence about the Carapakai was just plain The van was sent flying one more time, slamming into a building before hitting the ground. The door had been torn from its hinges, and we were dumped onto the concrete outside. A ship, for lack of a better term, hovered above us, black as night with smooth armor. It was unlike anything I had ever seen before. Find cover, you idiot. One of the agents grabbed my arm to pull me behind the overturned SUV, but a ball of plasma blasted us into the center of the road, below the ship. The once audible hum of whatever the ship used to fly cut to silence. The rough grip of the agent desperately pulled at my arm. Move, damn you! I was disoriented and in pain, but I rolled in the direction the agent yanked me. I couldn't imagine escaping a ship like the one above us, but I knew I was not ready to die. One of the other agents grabbed my arm and pulled me. I screamed as overwhelming pain flashed through my left leg. Whiteness briefly filled my vision before soothing black carried me into unconsciousness. The crew was vaporized, the same as the scout on the road. The ship crashed with no one flying it. My entire body was racked in pain as I opened my eyes to a sterile white room. Who would have thought first contact would have been initiated by some random mutate? We have been watching each other for how many months now? Two men stood at the end of the bed I was laying on. One of the agents that had abducted me, and a short, balding man in a white suit. Why would they be here if they weren't hostile, Agent Smith? I have said that from the beginning. We are fortunate to have access to a completely undamaged ship. It may even the odds. My leg was gone. Tubes were down my throat, in my wrist, and in my urethra. I could barely groan. Ah, Mr. Anders. Welcome to the land of the living. We nearly lost all of you there. The man in white chuckled, amused at his black humor. Welcome to Space Force, Mr. Anders. I am, frankly, quite surprised that I haven't heard of you before 2 weeks ago. A mutate of your threat level rarely stays hidden as long as you have. I couldn't speak. That was the least discomforting part of being intubated. I am certain you must be quite afraid, and perhaps a tad overwhelmed, but rest assured, you have become the single most important being alive for Earth. Your ability to kill any insect within proximity to you makes you the ultimate warrior in a fight with a race such as the Carapakai. We need you, Mr. Anders, or humanity may soon face extinction. This story was written by Dead Poetic 12. Read by Bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening. You created a subreddit for a made-up TV show from the 80s as a joke. After posting and thinking people were running with the joke, until someone posts an episode from the show. Many kinds of cuts, right? There's the cut that gets shouted after the scene is finished. There is the cut when someone cuts someone else off on the road. There is the good old cut that you get for participating in a business deal. So I got an email with the title Cut, and you know, I thought that it was spam. And, after I opened it, I realized that it wasn't just plain spam, but malicious spam. They pretended that they had counted $20,000 in my PayPal account with the text, "Your prescribed cut, Mr. Zahn. 2 million yen. Congratulations. Looking forward." And I closed the email and ignored it. But, truth be told, it would have been a whole lot easier to ignore it if I hadn't checked my PayPal after 3 days and discovered the amount in it. That's when I started paying attention. I must admit, I thought on keeping it. I really did. I even came up with reasons why I should keep it, why I deserved it more than some stupid Asian businessman who could not transfer money correctly. And, just like that, I wrote to them. I wanted to find an excuse to keep the money. The problem is that English was not their native language, and neither it is mine. So we worked through Google Translate and made a mockery of our conversation. After a few broken emails traversing the steppes of Siberia and China, I got an email with a single word title, Cut. It contained a video file, about 50 minutes long. It was called Tofu Test, just like my subreddit of a fantasy game show. And when I opened it, that was just what I got. An episode of tofu test. You know how game shows are always giving you that cardboard feeling? That you know the whole set can be packed in a single box and carried by a child? Well, this was something else. This was cheaper than that. There was barely any set at all. There were Asian men running around, laughing and carrying balls in a chaotic fashion. They run for a few minutes, then balanced an egg, then answered trivia questions, and everyone had a marvelous time. It had no subtitles, no production value, and no sense at all. They had taken every half-cooked idea of the users in my subreddit and actually filmed it and made a show out of it. And, at the end of it, one of the funny-looking men won 20 million yen, had a speech, and the show ended. That was something else, I will tell you that. I sat in front of my computer trying to process what I just saw. I came up with the show, and it wasn't real. But here it was. I started looking around. I Googled the email of the sender, but nothing came up. I tried Googling the second part of the email, and I found one noodle place by that name. But it couldn't be it. It had no website, no nothing. Just registered in some strange region in Japan I did not know of. But that gave me an idea, and I Googled tofu test. An upload in YouTube with the same noodle place account name. 200 views. A few websites, all in Japanese, all looking like from 1995. I tried using Google Translate, and I found out that all of them used the same little excerpt. Think you have skill? Think you have brain? Tofu test. Come, prove. 20 million yen belong to the victor. Created by Europe's show leader Zahn. No regrets at ever. And that's that. No regrets at ever. So I look at the details part of the show, and it is actually written that I had created it. My name and everything. And when I click on that name, I find out that I am the CEO of Tofu Test Broadcast. Proud owner, I tell you that. And the location of my newfound offices? That same noodle place. And a website. Not for Tofu Test, but for me, the proud creator of No Regrets at Ever. I open the Japanese website and see my face in it, smiling at me, with the text, Proud CEO and Family Man, Mr. Zahn, under it. I see my whole biography written there with pictures of me and my family. I translate the story about how all my life led up to creating the groundbreaking show, Tofu Test. I look through all my achievements, some of them true, some completely made up. My town's chess trophy? True. My work with the disabled? True. My speech in Oxford about cinematography? Take a wild guess. I couldn't even find Oxford on the map, but that is what caught my eye. See, I don't have my bachelor's or nothing, so I wrote in my Facebook Oxford when asked for education. It's not a lie, because everyone else sees it as an obvious joke, but not the man from the Eastern Island. No. They had copied all my information and photos from my Facebook. They had embellished it and created a website. They had made a company in my name. They had made the show in my name. They had created me anew, and this new me had created a show. Where to go from now? What is this whole mood of the story? Is this a scam in my name? Is this some sort of a Japanese version of a joke? One of those hidden camera shows? Is the subreddit playing a joke on me? 20,000 for a joke seems pretty steep to me. Has there been some sort of a great misunderstanding that I should write a book about? At least a Wired or Vice article? No, not Vice. My story will be better than that. So I crafted an email in response. I wrote to them that I'm honored and pleased. I wrote that the quality of the show is superb. I wrote that I love the whole Japanese nation. I asked them when would be a good time to visit not only the glorious Japanese country, but also my office in the noodle place. I was still toying with the idea and having a good laugh until I got the response. No come ever. Nothing for you here. Don't come Japanese jurisdiction. Easy to arrest. Audit. We give money here. Register winnings. All official. Send you your cut. Japanese tax audit can't see you. Don't come. Don't make people sorry. Don't make you sorry. And that's that. I'm not welcome there. Because if I will go there, The Japanese IRS will arrest me, interrogate me, and accuse in a money laundering scam. The noodle place is a cover for money launderers. The 20 million is given to someone, registered as prize money from Europe, then gets sent to wherever it's needed. I keep up the pretenses that that's true. I get my fair share of it all. My cut. When someone Googles tofu test, they find my subreddit, led by me, with people talking about the episodes. All real accounts, all enjoying the great show that is Tofu Test. And where that leaves me? Do I just keep taking the money? Do I object? Am I dealing with Yakuza and do I want to anchor them? I get the answer fast, and I get it in the broken English I've grown used to now. If you reject, you final cut. I don't know which cut of the English language this is. I don't care. I remove the word fake from the subreddit's description. I write a vague Facebook post praising Kubrick as a great cinematographer we should all learn from. I upload a picture of me eating tofu and winking at the camera. I'm an important man, and I have a feeling that I'd better not lose that title. This story was written by Zahn LV. Read by a Bag of Vicodin. Thank you for listening.